This place, 25,000 fools lined up for a free hamburger at the racetrack today and got it. In 1889, Vincent entered a mental asylum in Saint Remy. 1564, Michelangelo, Vesuvius, Calvin die. Shakespeare, Marlowe, Galileo born. Caught a flounder yesterday, cooked it today. Midst the dim of this imperfect life, a blinding flash of light tonight. When I let the 6 cats in, it was so perfectly beautiful that for a moment I turned away and faced the east wall. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you guys come in. Welcome to Bitcoin Talk Show. Just reading a little bit of Charles Bukowski, sifting through the madness for the word, the line, the way. Collection of new poems by Bukowski. He was talking about this place that we live in with 25,000 idiots lined up for a free t-shirt, or he said a free hamburger, but what's the difference now? You put a t-shirt in a cannon and they'll all jump for it. You can see them in the stands. I was thinking about people today, thinking about people before the shows. I was talking to a friend of mine downstairs, and I was talking about how we have no great billionaires, and how what a great billionaire is. And a great billionaire is not just someone who invests in other companies for profit. It's a great thing to make profit, but everyone's trying to make profit, right? Millionaires and thousandaires and even hundredaires are trying to make profit, right? So it's no great accomplishment for a great billionaire to make profit, right? Anyone can do that. If you want to be a great billionaire, you have to build something like Carnegie, not like Rockefeller. You have to build something like a system of free libraries, a system of free schools. They say the stream quality is bad. Maybe your stream quality is bad. I don't know. But I think that you have to invest in more than just companies. You have to invest in the arts. You have to invest in something greater than profit. And I was thinking about the situation right now. Everyone's into the price. So everyone gravitates to these people that claim to predict the price. Then we have more people into the price. The system repeats, it recycles. You can see how if this keeps going for a few years, all that we'll be interested in is the price. All we'll care about is the price because to change it. The great billionaires out there didn't invest in any other crypto media. They just invested in the price, or they just invested in what would make them the most profit. The coin they created, the one they championed, the classic version of the other one, whichever one it is. That's all we had. That's all that was left. Anything that wasn't about the price was priced out because no one thought about it. So they're saying the video looks bad. Not much we can do. We have the bandwidth that we have. We do the best with what we can. Oh, they say the camera's focusing on the mic. Oh boy, what a tragedy. Gosh, I would throw this free show back. Yeah, give up. Throw this free show back. So, no, I think that the great billionaires need to do more than just invest and make profit. I'm looking for them to do more. It's too easy just to invest and just to make profit. That's for children, right? Anyone could do that. I'd like to see them do something greater. I was talking to my friend downstairs, and we were both agreeing that Bitcoin was about so much more than the price. But whenever the price goes up, all of our friends call us, and they only want to talk about one thing. They want to talk about the price. So if you want to talk about the price, and if you want to predict the price and use the charts from the past to predict the price, you're not really adding anything to Bitcoin. You're not adding to a discussion about the technology. Things that we were talking about yesterday, talking about how, yes, Bitcoin will cut off the ability for companies and countries to start wars and print money. It'll also cut off the abilities for countries to print money for disaster relief. Think about the recent rescue of the Thailand children. The uh, the Thailand children, that rescue has to come from somewhere. That money has to come from somewhere. Right now, the government can just write that off, right? They can print some more money. They can do a little less things in their budget, which is again made up of printed money. They can account for it, right? In the future, that kind of system, that kind of reward, that kind of help will actually have to be paid for. And I know this is a shocker to everyone because we're used to the government having an unbalanced budget. We're used to the government kicking the can down the road. Well, when the road is made of pure Bitcoin, there is no can to kick, right? They can't just print money. They can't print money for bombs and wars and things we don't like. They also can't print money for disaster relief, for arts programs, for schools and roads, things that we do like. So you're actually going to have to pay for these things. Every dollar spent in charity has to be spent a real dollar. You can't just print more dollars. So I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, an interesting thing to think about. I don't think that it much changes anything. I think the Bitcoin's still happening either way. But it is interesting to think about what the world would be like with Bitcoin as the one true currency. And then for me, I think about how could the world ever be any other way? What could happen to stop this? And I don't think there's very much they can do. Bitcoin keeps growing. The price of Bitcoin in the last 24 hours is up 0.59%, with a last of 6,355, a high of 6,414, and a low of 6,299. That's $1 for 15,763 Satoshis. Remember, you can check out the World Crypto Network podcast on iTunes and Acast. Get all the shows, Adam Meister, Andy Hoffman, J.W. Weatherman, and much, much more on the World Crypto Network podcast. Subscribe today. Get those audio only episodes that you crave. You can also support the World Crypto Network by subscribing to our Patreon today. We've got a Patreon for the World Crypto Network and a Patreon for Mad Bitcoins. Join the Mad Bitcoins Patreon page and get active in the community. We need you. You could also support this show by donating Bitcoin or these random crazy altcoins to the QR code on your screen right now. Bitcoin's computing power growth is outpacing the Bitcoin price. Note how they make it sound like a bad thing. Another way of saying this is saying that miners keep investing money in Bitcoin no matter what the price. It's almost as if the miners know that Bitcoin is a valuable thing, that it's hard to produce, and that it will go up in value in the future. It's almost like the miners know more than we do. But of course, the media thinks that they're insane. Maybe they should slow down. Maybe they should mine less Bitcoin. That worked so well when they told people to mine less gold or to shut down those gold miners. Don't be so gold rush. Slow down about your gold rush. Nobody likes your gold rush. What do you want us to do? Move across the entire country just to get our hands on some gold? Well, yeah, that's what everybody else did. Bitcoin looks more like gold than a currency. Huh. I'm not so sure about that. The cryptocurrency is volatile. Well, yeah, it's brand new, costly to store, only if you're stupid, hard to use. Same thing with the stupid problem, and deflationary. All right. Bitcoin is similar to gold because it's deflationary. Although, actually, I don't know that gold is deflationary. Gold doesn't have a schedule like Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you can say every 4 years, the amount of production goes down by half. Gold, I mean, I think there's a fixed number of gold, but sometimes we find some more gold. People are still mining gold. It's not impossible that someday we bring an asteroid full of gold to the Earth, park it in a geosynchronous orbit, and mine it until it's gone. That's not unreasonable. I wonder if we crashed it through the atmosphere, if it would burn off the outer layer, but leave us just a wonderful gold rock that crashed somewhere. I wonder if we could even determine where it would crash in advance. I'll bet we would lose more gold that way than if we mined it in space. But it might be easier, it might be more efficient. But anyway, it's great if Bitcoin is like gold. We've come so far already. Bloomberg is trying to put us down by comparing us to the number one asset for over 200 years. Right? The beauty of gold is $20 in gold would buy you a hamburger and a pack of fries. or it'll buy you a hamburger and a pack of fries in Roman times, right? It might not be the same burger, but that's the idea. You can buy the same amount of stuff with gold. So if you could buy the same amount of stuff with Bitcoin in 100 years, that'd be fantastic. I think they're not taking account of where we've been, where we've come from. Every article in this paper 4 years ago read that Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme or tulips or a scam or something you shouldn't be involved in. Now they're downing Bitcoin by saying that it's like gold. So what are you going to do next? Say that, oh, Bitcoin's not quite as good as the dollar, but it's in the same ballpark. Bitcoin's in the same ballpark as the dollar. Bitcoin's in the same conversation as gold. Oh boy, you guys are losing ground fast. I worry about you when you start to shift this far. When you look at your initial opinions and you say, "Oh, why didn't they stick with tulips? Why didn't they stick with Ponzi scheme? It didn't fit so well. You guys had made up so much nonsense that it kicked back on you." I'd keep an eye on yourself, Bloomberg. You've got some moving goalposts there. You've got the goalposts are moving. Bitcoin is the best bet for cryptocurrency investors, says Wall Street trader. Huh, that's interesting. CNBC is actually recommending Bitcoin now. Bitcoin is the best bet. That tulip Ponzi scheme we heard so much about 4 years ago, suddenly a good investment. I mean, they're still hedging. They say a Wall Street trader, a trusted source, unlike 4 years ago when that madman in the hat told you to buy as much Bitcoin as you could get your hands on. No, now it's a Wall Street trader, so you can all trust it. Looks like we've got about 66 members of the audience. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Remember, thumbs up are free, and that helps more YouTubers find the show. More YouTubers who are probably like these people at CNBC. They're not sure what Bitcoin is. They keep moving the goalposts. They keep changing their mind. They can't seem to figure it out. That's because Bitcoin is new money for the internet. Bitcoin isn't going away. Bitcoin lasts forever. Nothing else is like that. How can something last forever without a corporation, without a country, without a government, without a founder even? How can it do that? I just don't know. Startup exec says his call for $60,000 Bitcoin is still possible this year. Once again, when the Bitcoin price goes up, it'll happen too fast for you to catch it. Like that guy says, when you uh when you keep out of the market, you keep out of the days where it goes up. You also keep out of the days where you go down. But the kind of thing where an ETF gets approved, you look at the Bitcoin price, it's up 10%. You look at it again in an hour, it's up 20%. It seems like it'll happen pretty quickly, and that's what these guys are talking about. They're not giving up their huge price calls. Certainly, neither are the people who say that Bitcoin's going lower. The people that say Bitcoin's going lower are sticking with it, but we haven't seen anything like that yet. Bitcoin's price may be charting a bull reversal. Very interesting. According to the technical charts, we might see a major bullish pattern in the next few days. Of course, on the other side, like a weatherman, it also might rain. The risk of a deep pullback to $6,000 looked to have increased after Tuesday's 5.7% drop. However, that doesn't mean the bears are back in a commanding position, since the cryptocurrency is still holding well above the recent low of 5,755. Bitcoin could create an inverse head and shoulders pattern, a bullish pattern, if the bears fail to penetrate the immediate support of $6,000 in the next couple of days. Let's go down to the view. The view. Bitcoin's close below the 10-day moving average yesterday has neutralized the immediate bullish outlook. The immediate support at $6,000 could be put to a test in the next day or two, but the probability of a break below that level is low. A high volume rebound from $6,000 would help Bitcoin chart an inverse head and shoulders bullish reversal pattern. Only a daily close below $6,000 would boost the odds of a drop below 5,755. It's starting to look like Bitcoin might have actually found a floor. Could this be it? Could this be the floor of Bitcoin? Well, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone call lines. You can call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Go ahead and download Skype for free, create an account for free, add the World Crypto Network for free, and call us for free. We're also joined by Ricardo from Rico Coin Report. How's it going, Ricardo?
It's going pretty good considering France won last night. It was mental for the entire evening. I got to see that. I showed you that before the show started. Of just I was headed home on the trains late, and people were just going mental. They were literally slamming their hands up on the ceiling because they won against Belgium. If anybody watched the game, it was pretty mental
So
there.
France is in the World Cup final, and then I think we'll find out just a little later today whether they're going to play England or Croatia.
That's
So
right.
it's down to the final three, even soon the final two teams
I
in
can't
the
wait.
World Cup.
Yeah, it's
Very
going good,
exciting.
man. Yeah, I'm excited, and the price is an agreeable for me, so it's good. And yeah, I feel like everything is evening out. It's summertime. I'm enjoying the weather while I can. It's good, man. Thanks for asking. And yourself?
Oh, it's been about 105 here. No messing around. There was a point there where it was 110. I went outside and you could feel your muscles relax like you're in a sauna. You're like, oh, it's kind of nice. And they're like, if I stay out here for 10 minutes, I would die. Like, it's kind of nice. I can walk from the parking lot to the casino. That's about it. The casinos here are really, they're like malls. They have movie theaters and food courts and bowling alleys and a bunch of slot machines that people
Of
endlessly
course.
play, very tragically, searching for that money. But
I wonder if anybody's just lined the ceilings with not ceilings, the rooftops with just solar panels, to just keep it going. Because I know that Vegas pulls out a lot of energy, and that light coming from the Luxor is mental. I guess you can see it from space. It's like the one light you can see from space, and it just is on all the time. You just imagine that must pull out so much energy. I just wonder if they use reusable energy there.
well, certainly, MGM has a huge solar farm that's near Las
Oh,
Vegas. I've heard you can see it on the way in. I drove in at night. I have no idea. So there's a solar
all right.
farm. The other one, of course, Hoover Dam. They're just pushing that power through the turbines. They're
Yeah,
getting essentially free power there. It's very reusable. Surprisingly, for a city that makes no sense, built in the middle of the desert, I think it's got some lastability with the dam and the solar power, and they could build tons more. So.
absolutely. You're in the middle of the desert. You can build whatever you want. Yeah, reminds me of like Dubai and other places that are just created out of nothing except for money. That's awesome. Have you heard about that large city, the Neom project in the Middle East? It's a smart city, and it's I don't know where exactly it is. I think it's somewhere in the Gulf or in Saudi Arabia. It's a artificial intelligent, or they're trying to create it as artificial intelligent city. And there's a lot of new cities in the Middle East. There's one that they have all the transportation below the ground to keep the heat down and to keep more traffic of pedestrians, which is kind of cool.
The interesting thing about a city in the Middle East is they would have a lot of funding. A lot of the futuristic cities in America, you guys know the one I'm talking about. They're going to be building out of shipping containers. So good luck living in a shipping container in the middle of the desert. But yeah, I'd much rather have an underground city built by oil billionaires. Say what you will about the oil billionaires, at least they spend their money. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a shipping container city in New Zealand. It's in Queenstown, not Queenstown. Excuse me, that's wrong. Christchurch. I flew into it from when I was living in Wellington. I went down to the South Island for a holiday, and you just see it's flat. It's literally you can see all the way across. But they have a lot of earthquakes there, so they've solved it by just putting all of the stores and houses in shipping containers. And we stayed in a hotel that was halfly created by shipping containers that they had put onto the building because there was an earthquake while it was being made. Craziest thing, you couldn't even really tell from the inside, but then you kind of could because it was so Um, it was just very cut edge, and you can kind of see where it would, like, cut off the building. It was really cool, actually. Um, you could do a lot with a shipping container, I reckon.
It is funny the way they're all stuck over here. We don't send them back to China. We receive
Ah,
shipping containers from China. We don't have anything that they want to fill them up with to send them back. So they
that's
stack
true.
up here in America, and that's why we have so many of them, and they're so inexpensive, and people are using them for these other sources. They're perfectly good metal, right?
Right.
They're a great metal box, and I haven't read it yet, but there's this great book called The Box, and subtitle is How the Shipping Container Changed the World. And really did. If you look at the old pictures,
Mhm.
like from the 20s and 30s, they're unpacking like a rope tied around something, like a bundle of stuff, and
Yeah.
they'll unpack the ship with like this bundle and that bundle, and God knows how things got there, and the theft problems and the damage from the water and everything else. Like it's a total nightmare. So shipping containers are amazing, but we just have too many of them now. We don't have anything to do with them.
Well, imagine you could probably hide a lot of things in there. I know there was that one scene where, like, Batman goes into a shipping container, and then the whole thing just starts to slide underneath the ground, and he's got this like cold fusion reactor underneath, and it's this huge base, and it's just a shipping container building, and it just turns into this underground bat cave that no one even knew that was there for research development. But yeah, man, shipping containers, I that might be the future for being off the grid. You just plug it onto some truck. You've got your Tesla truck, smart car, and then you've got your shipping container.
I would never want to live in one by choice,
Oh,
especially I wouldn't want to travel in one. There's that whole idea of people living in them and traveling in them, and they don't even know that you're in there. You're in a stack of endless shipping containers, and you could never get out. It's very terrifying. If it falls over the edge, they're like, "Oh well, whatever. We lost a car, but you were in there." So yeah, I'm never gonna travel by shipping container given the choice.
yeah, that's funny, man. We used to travel back. I was thinking back in the day in the year, like the Oregon Trail. They used to have those wagons, and now we've gotten all the way up to shipping containers. In the future, we'll just be all in pods. It's going to be interesting. If you go to Japan, you get to see that. You get to see all the new technology and how they're trying to create more space by compacting more, and the living quarters are quite small. And Paris, same. There's some really small quarters that I've seen that you can live in Paris, and I think that there's probably going to be a day where we switch over, and it's just going to be like Fifth Element, when they're living in a hallway. Everything just slides into the wall. Everything's just on the wall. You're living in this hallway, it's a cell pretty much.
They're showing that stuff as exciting futurism still, but it's actually terrifying dystopianism. There are so many people, there's so little land, there's so difficult to get a place to live or to rent that, yeah, we do have to live in hallways, and everything does have to be built out of the wall. You have no choice about it. Just like right now, you can wear this watch for fun, but in the future, it's going to be like you have to wear a fitness watch. Like everyone is being monitored. Like, of course, how would it be any other way?
You have to be, yeah. Have you ever seen those tracking bands that track infrared when you go like on like Strava?
No, what's
Strava,
that about?
Strava is this. It's a satellite, or it's a tracking GPS locators that are put into when people go cycling. I know my father uses them because he's a huge cyclist, and he goes kind of up in the hills, and it's like it alerts you if something happens. Or, but anyways, if you go online to Strava.com, you can follow these. You can follow anybody. You can see the mass people like running, and there's some really quite interesting research where it shows people like in the middle of not Alaska, Antarctica, and there's just perfect circles, and you're like, did somebody just run in the perfect circle in Antarctica? And there's ones that are just not in the water, and you're like, okay, maybe this is underground or something. That is interesting. This is that GPS thing, and it's in
Oh
your
yeah,
cell
they
phone
they
too.
leaked a bunch of the U.S. military bases that way. They're like, yeah, all these high level people send to jog around this track, and then they're like, oh crap, like that's our track. And yeah, that was a big problem for them because people don't think about it. These smartphones, these smart data, all this stuff. But if you work for a serious company like the military, they don't like having their data out there. They don't like people knowing where their important people run and so forth and so forth. So but just a shout out to the audience. Thanks for giving us that thumbs up. We're up to 100 viewers. because you gave us a thumbs up for free. If you like this show, if you think it's valuable, give us a thumbs up. If you've got a question about Bitcoin, give us a call. World Crypto Network, all one word on Skype. We're right here. We'll answer your questions, or at least we'll give it a try. I saw some interesting stuff in the chat. Let's go back and let's talk to the chat today.
Check this out.
Bud Thompson said, I read that the ice plants near the California coast were brought here from Chinese shipping crates in the 1800s. So that's pretty interesting. I'm not sure if he means like ice plants, like actual plants. And then the other problem here with Chinese shipping crates, they could have been full of Chinese people. Like, things were tougher in the 1800s. So it's interesting to think about what's going on. Robert asks me if I remember Vonnegut's Breakfast of Champions. I think it's a vodka, like a vodka martini, something like that. I think that's the Breakfast of Champions. But I don't remember the actual book. I think it might have been the one where everyone is a drone but you, and that you're the only real person, and that God once made this tombstone for Adam, for like the real man. And on the tombstone, God put about the man, he said that this man always kept God guessing, right? And that was the greatest compliment that God could pay to man, is that he didn't know what man was going to do next. And I thought that was one of Vonnegut's best lessons. That the only thing you're really here for is to entertain this God. And maybe there is a God, maybe there isn't God, but that's no reason not to be entertaining. Be entertaining. Be useful. Be interesting. If you're being boring, even if there isn't a God, you're boring. It's awful. It's the worst thing to be. So don't be boring. And the other lesson from Vonnegut, and I usually read his books 2 or 3 at a time, so I don't exactly keep them apart. They kind of blend together in my mind. But this one, he said, Vonnegut basically thought, and people are going to get upset if you're super religious here, but stick with me. Vonnegut thought that the story of Jesus Christ was told wrong. He thought that story, Jesus Christ comes down, he says that he's connected. He says he's the Son of God, right? And they crucify him, and then God comes down afterwards, and he's all upset. He's like, "Why did you, kill my son? Everyone told you he's my son. Why'd you kill him?" What Vonnegut said is that the better way to tell this story is for Jesus to be a big jerk, and that Jesus comes down and he doesn't even tell anybody that he's associated with God. He just acts like a big jerk. And then they crucify him because he's a big jerk, and that's what you do with jerks, right? And after they crucify him, God comes down. He's like, "Why'd you crucify that guy? He's my son. He was connected," right? The lesson of that is, don't crucify anybody because they might be connected, right? Vonnegut's looking for a little more enforceability there. He's looking for more of it's a little Orwellian, it's a little creepy, it's a little compulsive perhaps. But what he's trying to say there is that be nice to everybody because you don't know who might happen to be God's son, right? Anybody could be Jesus. Therefore, we should take care of everybody. It's pretty clever. I mean, it's a little force, right? But it's pretty clever. Vonnegut, man, interesting stuff out there. Check it out. He's a fun guy. When I read Vonnegut books, I feel like I know him. I feel like he's my friend and he's talking to me directly and we're having a conversation, and it's just a great conversation. And we can talk about religion, and we can talk about anything, because Vonnegut is just so incredibly honest with me when I read him. When I read Vonnegut, I don't feel that he's holding anything back. He talks about his farts. He talks about picking his nose. He talks about whatever it is. He's not hiding any of these things. And I feel the same way about George Carlin. When I listen to George Carlin and he tells me jokes or something, George Carlin's always like, that feeling you get when you're about to fart? And that may seem lowbrow and ignorant and stupid or whatever, but we're all humans, right? We're all trapped in these bodies. We're all trying to figure it out. And to deny that, to put artifice and levels up in between us, that weakens us. That makes our conversation harder. So I think it's better to be like Vonnegut, excuse me, or to be like George Carlin and to just cut through that and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a human too. I farts or whatever. And, that's a human. So be more like a human." be an interesting human. So yeah,
Absolutely. Go ahead.
go
I
ahead.
was going to add to that. No, just some really good authors that I've read. You can relate to them because they are being crude and they're being honest. And if you're being honest with people, then it really doesn't make a difference what you're talking about because it's just being honest about it. You can make a big point about it. But I think that people talk and get uncomfortable about things because they're not being honest with themselves. You know, we are a human. And so we have to relate to one another. And sometimes that's just a great way to relate instead of being so um, so standard. What's it called when you say something properly? You know,
Well, I always think of like
PC.
the
Excuse me.
yeah, like the Victorians, right? The uptight, like the people who didn't fart, the people who didn't they didn't burp or anything. They're all too above that. And like it's nice to be that way, and I like to respect people's spaces and not make everything a guttural mess. But at the same time, if you're a human being and you got to take care of business, you got to take care of business, right? I mean, we got other human beings here. So I think
Absolutely,
it's
it's a
important
state of
stuff.
mind. Yeah. Something that I noticed when I came to Europe is people are pretty free with the way they are, and they're very. In French, people are kind of just very liberal in their sense. They're just going to do what they want to do, and you can just deal with it. And that was kind of hard for me. I went to the doctor the first time, and having them just ask my wife to have her just remove her clothes, and she just did it so freely. I was in the room with the doctor. I was kind of uncomfortable with that, and they didn't bat an eye. And I was like, this is awkward for me, not for them. But I was like, because I'm so PC, and I went to school for nursing in America, and it's so like robe, and you get your own room to change in, and then you come back out, and it's so you sit there for like good 30 minutes, and the doctor comes in, you see him for 5, and that's it, and it's just like, but I think we need to
Yeah,
let go of that.
I definitely had some experience with that lately. Yeah, I went in, they had me dress in the robe, but then after I had some tests done, and after the tests were done, somehow I was back in my amazing clothes again.
Right.
I was like, I wonder how that happened. So I have no idea what happened there, but something
Wow.
happened. So
Well, no, it's just that we all have, yeah, we're so PC, and we've created so many boundaries and rules that it's good to just be free and be like, yeah, you do have that feeling, when you really got to go and you're like dancing because you're waiting in line to go to the bathroom, or, when you're running and you don't know if you're going to make it, everybody has that. We're all human, so no one breathes better air or, doesn't smell bad when they pass gas. That's just what it is.
well, I'm reminded of a line from the Boston legal television show with James Spader and William Shatner. And Shatner plays Denny Crane. He's kind of an out of control lawyer. Even back then, they were wondering if Shatner's mind was still all there. And Denny Crane is like telling the press, he's like, "I'm Denny Crane, Denny Crane. My shit doesn't stink. It comes out in pastels, pretty colors. Denny Crane." It was pretty funny stuff.
That's actually great.
But
Yeah,
but
we
he's
need.
the only one. He's the only one. Everybody else has all these normal problems except Mr. Shatner and
Of
Mr. Denny Crane.
course, of
So
course, the legends. No, it is what it is. Yeah, the uncomfortable person is going to be the one that doesn't really get. But I think that we've all created a bit of uncomfort, like this zone around us, and it changes depending on which country you're in, but it's still there. I think it's a safety thing, And some people, I have nieces and nephews, but now that I have my own child, you have to just let go, There's just some things they're gonna do that it's gonna be pretty gross, and you just gotta it's a child, and they're just growing, and you've been there as well. So things are going to be gross, but that's part of life.
it's like the old riddle. Sorry, the old riddle of the Sphinx. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the midday, and 3 legs in the evening?
That's right. The man.
Man,
That's
so
crazy.
good stuff. But yeah, I want to give people the chance to call in right now. You can call us on Skype World Crypto Network. We're talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about we talked a little bit about the value of a Bitcoin billionaire, the ability to invest in things other than profit.
Right.
Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Let me know. We also talked about what's going to happen in the beginning of Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin if everyone's only into the price, if people don't understand the technology, how that's going to hurt us.
Mm.
And we also talked about what it's like to be a human and what it's like to fart and all these things. And I read something recently where I read that everyone is suffering from something. You see all these people and you think, gosh, they're all so strong. They don't have this problem that I have, or they don't have this problem that you have, and yet
Uh,
they're able to keep going. But really, they have other problems that we don't know about.
yes.
Even the most beautiful and wonderful people, they have secret problems. They have that thing where they throw up, or they can't eat food, or they have to work out all the time, or they'll gain a pound. These seem like very different problems than the rest of us, but there's still problems, right? All these people are still just like you, trying to get through this thing. And that's why it really helps to have compassion. No
Abs-
matter where you are, no matter what it is, you've got to have some compassion. It's pretty difficult.
No,
So
well
you got to
said.
have it.
Absolutely. That we do all have problems, and we do have to have compassion for one another. Well said. I think that's why you're here and I'm here, is because we have a bit of compassion for humanity. We believe in something. Gosh, you had said something right before then, and I completely missed it. But yeah, I think that we're at a point in age where if we don't start reaching out for each other, that's the problem. Is that we've become separated because we can't look up to each other and rely on each other, and I think that's sad. That's really sad that we've gotten to a point of state where we're not comfortable. The only time you ever look at somebody is when you're driving past them on the freeway, or let's say you're just, you're looking up from the bus. You don't actually, you're never going to converse with these people. You couldn't be bothered. But these people are living amongst you. That's a life, and it's funny to think that our life is the most valuable because we can only see the world through our own eyes and through the ones we love and care. But everybody's life is just as valuable. It could be hard or harder as yours is. So um, we all have strengths and weaknesses, but yeah, man, it's funny that we all are uncomfortable with each other as well. It's really weird.
I've been touring a lot of the smaller casinos with some friends that are in town. Tourists, they all want to see the parts of Vegas, all that. And my friend remarked he noticed that no one in the casinos is talking to each other. And there used to be a time when you play the table games, at least when you played craps or roulette, everyone would clap for the table. Everyone would say, "Come on, we need a six, we need a six." At least there'd be that level of communication. But with these slot machines, it's such a private pursuit. You sit down, you start plugging quarters in. They don't even do quarters anymore. They just take the whole $20, and you're just sitting there pushing this spin button, spin, 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 and flashy lights and neon things are flying in your face. Win or lose, the machine says that you win. If you bet 50 cents and you win 10 cents, you actually lost 40 cents. But according to the machine, you won 10 cents. Get excited. So it's very sad. These people, they aren't communicating. It looks like a lot of them have a lot in common. They're all older gentlemen and ladies from all over the earth, all over the United States, maybe the South and the Midwest more than other places.
Yep.
But they have so much in common. They have nothing to say to each other. They make no connections.
Oh,
They're not trying. They're just plugging at those machines, just grinding away. A person in the chat says that it's like day trading. I think that's a great analogy.
that's a great way.
As sad as it is, these people are betting on sevens and
Yep.
carries and bars and all this other nonsense.
Yep.
Whereas, say what you will about the day traders in crypto, at least you've got the knowledge that crypto exists. You're
Right.
pretty damn futuristic, I think, because you know about Bitcoin and maybe you're more into Ethereum or EOS or whatever the flavor of the day is. And that's great. You're a day trader. You got to be hip. But you know about it. You have the knowledge. So
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I think it'd be better right now to be trading anything. It'd be altcoins and maybe not trading Bitcoin, but gaining more Bitcoin with your altcoins if that's what you want to do, or if you want to gain more of your altcoin through your Bitcoin. That's also a great gamble shoot. I tried to explain this to my wife, and she was like, I don't get it. So, but altcoins and Bitcoin, I think, is the way to go when it comes to investing right now. The stock markets are volatile lately. Not lately, but like this last year. And there's just been some scary run-ins with the banks and trade wars and everything that's going amok right now with the government. So I never tell people to invest into stocks and stuff because I've tried it just as a free trial when I was living in Australia. I was trying to do just, when you go online, you get those applications that they give you like $10,000 worth of stock, and you invest into it and you watch it go, and it's just an application. It's a freebie. And I was like, okay. And I was getting calls from people, and I was like, that's kind of weird because I'm just using this free application. I don't know why I'm getting phone calls about it. And I just didn't. I don't believe in the I don't believe in enough in the corporations to want to invest that much money into it or time.
Well, and what's sad is if I tried to speak to these people and tried to tell them about Bitcoin, they would think that it's a scam. They're
Right.
there betting their money on
Fiat.
slot machines that have terrible odds. That are controlled by computers, all these other things, and still they would think Bitcoin's a scam. Even when I'm sitting here, saying I have information, I've
Right.
been in this 5 years. I've done okay because I've been in it 5 years. I bought 5 years ago. I didn't have any money then, and I don't have that much money now. But if I'd had more, I would have more. And that's what I'm telling to them. I'm like, hey, you don't have to play these slot machines. You don't have to play them, but they do. It's the only way they know. So they
Absolutely.
can't learn anything new.
That's what I was going to say. These people are slaves to their own. They're being preyed upon in a system that needs them for the system to run, and it needs them to wake up and fill their cup of coffee with whiskey and coffee and go to the machine and plug and play. And they sit there 8 hours a day, and they just decay. And on top of that, not only that, but the thing is, there's systems all around that are being processed and maneuvered, whether it's your work life. And I thought about this too because I started getting into the 8 hour day, and I didn't like that feeling at all. So I was like, I can't do that. But I think people realize that sometimes the solutions are at your feet, right in front of you. You don't have to go across the water and go through the woods and recreate the wheel and tell everybody that you're gonna make it because you have this need to conquer. And sometimes you can just conquer by looking down. The solution's right in front of you, and you are the solution. Act. And I think that if you, in this day and age, it's great to tell people and their neighbors, but no one wants to hear it. No one wants to hear the solution. People just like to hear that they got a like, or they've got something that's going to make them feel better about themselves. People don't want to hear about the solutions because the solutions are problems. That's the problem. That's the solution, is dealing with the problem. So if we deal with the problem, yeah, it's not easy, but it'll get there, one day at a time. You didn't get to where you were just by snapping your fingers. You had to go through a lot of stuff, but it was at the feet of your, it was just there. You took advantage of the situation, and more so, you took the decision. And that's what I think people need to start doing, just taking the decision. Maybe that means wake up a little bit earlier and have some quiet time to just delve into something that's just interesting for you. Maybe that means get off of one of those the jewel games that people play all the time, and just stop doing that for like 10-15 minutes a day, or just something that's good for you, that's just for your mental, that you can work on just for you. You don't have to worry about telling the world how to do things because, well, the world doesn't want to hear it, I think.
A friend told me another story that's kind of like that man on the roof during the flood, and he keeps waiting for the boat, and God sends him a boat, and God sends him a helicopter, and all these things, and it's not good enough because he's waiting for God to save him. And he gets up
Right.
to heaven, and God's like, "Well, why didn't you take the boat or the helicopter or all the other things I sent? Why did you wait?" And this was the same thing where he said, my friend told him, he's like, tells his buddy, he's like, hey, you should get some Bitcoin. It's like, $800. And then it's $1,000, and then it's $5,000, and then it's $10,000. And he's still telling him, he's like, yeah, you should probably get some, but not as much as I felt about it before when it was 1,000. It finally gets up to 20 grand, and his buddy buys in. And it's like, why did you wait so long? Like, all this information I gave you, when the information's early, it's good information. When it's late, it's soggy and old and no good. And everyone will just wait. They can't take the information when it's early because they don't want to risk. And really, like, If you're investing in something you've never heard of, you're taking a risk. If you're investing in something you've heard of, like Apple stock or IBM stock, you're not taking a big risk. You're not going to get a big gain. You're also not going to get a big loss. But you probably can't even see that because you're blinded by the big gain. And that's what you really want. So,
Yes, well said. I think that every single person has a decision to make. You said about risk and gain. I think every single day people risk the chance to go to their 8-hour job in the long run. You know, maybe as an entrepreneur, I risk the chance of creating myself. Really scary. Had to do a lot of side jobs. Had to do a lot of working for free and trade and you know, just jobs I didn't like. But at the same time, it felt good that I was, you know, creating my own road. And I think that Bitcoin separates you from the rest of the gazelle, you know, or maybe the ones that I don't know. You just think that people need to realize that you can't always be part of the herd, and it's good to not be part of the herd. You know, you don't want to lead yourself into a trap. You know, so I think a lot of people know, but they're scared. And you're right about what you said about earlier about getting in super late. It's face melting when people start buying in at 20,000 and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna drop in 5 Gs, and then it just sinks down to what, 6, and you're like, I told you this for over a year, you know, and you finally got in when you saw people getting, you know, pulling out their life savings and putting it in there, and you're like, I, I it's not my fault, you know, like I've been telling you, read the news, see the signs, and don't take it from me. Just put in a little bit and see what happens. But people don't want they're not patient. People want instant gratification, you know? It's the thing now. That's what technology's brought us to.
yep, and it's like that Aerosmith song. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Something like that. And then I
Yeah.
think he says, "Could that be nothing?" um,
Insanity.
we've had
Insanity.
some good questions here in the chat. I want to address them. This guy says he's in Canada and lots of people talk to him. So that sounds cool. I'd like to go to Canada. Very beautiful women from Canada. Maybe they'll talk to me. That sounds great. Um, Anthony asks, is it true that a Bitcoin ETF for CBOE could be approved before August 10th? And I don't know about the date. I've seen that date floating around. I've seen the August date start to come up on people's radar. But I definitely think that CBOE is working on an ETF. We did see the news that the SEC has relaxed the ETF rules, hopefully making it easier for an ETF. And remember that the previous ETF was all Winklevi all the time. So if CBE can OE can make them a better offer with more different groups in charge of different parts of the ETF, I think they have a good chance of being approved. And remember, ETF, bank adoption, country adoption, large scale Amazon adoption. Those are the 4 events that we're waiting for to take us out of this Bitcoin bear market. Good news does matter, and we do have potential good news out there. We just have to wait and see. Madden Gamers has a question. He asks, why is Vinny from Civic, Vinny Lingham, tweeting about on-chain scaling and not in favor of the Lightning Network? Personally, I don't know. I think Vinny's a nice guy. I've talked to him a couple of times. We did an interview together, and I'd be glad to talk to Vinny again about this issue or about Civic or anything. He seems like a good guy, but I think technically he's just completely wrong on this. I think that Vinny Lingham has made a bad choice about on-chain scaling and that he's sticking with it. And at a certain point, when the evidence changes, you have to change your opinion. If you want to keep my respect, you have to look at the scientific adoption of the Lightning Network and the way that the SegWit adoption's up to 40%. They said that was impossible. They said it was growing too slow, all of those things, but it's growing just fine. I just think he's wrong. I think that if you think about on-chain scaling, and again, if you don't care about censorship resistance, if you believe that Bitcoin should be just like the rest of the money in the world, that it can be censored, that it can be blocked, that it can be turned around, then it doesn't matter if Bitcoin's running in only 9 data centers in the entire world, and you can take over or blow up those 9 data centers to get control of Bitcoin. If that's not important to you, then yeah, it doesn't matter how you scale Bitcoin, right? But if censorship resistance is important to you it's important to you to allow people to spend their money how they want to spend their money. If you want to donate your money to WikiLeaks, donate it. If you want to donate your money to the World Crypto Network, donate it. No one can stop you and say, you can't donate to this address. However, if on chain scaling led to Bitcoin being mined only in 9 data centers in the world, you could take over those data centers and you could ban the address for WikiLeaks. And that would be the end of that. So I don't think that's the Bitcoin I signed up for. That's not a good deal. So yeah, I would just disagree with Vinny on that. And again, it's gone on so far. Everyone's pretty much a cold warrior on this. Vinny's probably going to get upset if you challenge him about this on-chain scaling thing directly. I would be glad to talk to him in an extended conversation, and I would give him a chance to explain his side of the argument, and then I would explain my side of the argument, and then you can make up your own decision. So let's see. IBLB says slot machines, video games, everybody has some shit. The PS4, Xbox trophies aren't real. And I'd say, yeah, definitely none of that stuff's real. You got to get out into the real world. You got to do things. You got to help people. I think even Richard Hart has some really good videos about video game addiction and how it gets you nowhere. And I was glad to see that. He's changed a little now, but I still like what he said earlier. Say Canada is a nice country. Good information's like a bowl of cereal. Yeah, you just got to eat it. I don't know if that's what he meant. Crypto Sasquatch says they're calling in. We are open on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Awesome. Hey, what's going on, man? It's the Crypto Mystic. I'm breaking character today to talk to you about Bitcoin. What's up, dude?
All right. Tell me about it. What's on your mind about Bitcoin today?
Well, I heard you guys, talking about your friends, buying in at 20K when the hype is strong. And, I feel like in my early journey in Bitcoin, I did a lot of people a disservice. They'd ask about Bitcoin and I'd say, oh, yeah, I got in early. That's oh, yeah, that's a Ponzi scheme. No, you don't understand. But as more people adopt it and get in, no, that's a Ponzi scheme. So I feel like as I, went down this road, this journey, it became easier to explain the differences, the immutability, the selling points, the technological selling points, not so much the price selling points. So that was just my thought this morning.
I definitely think so. And it's so hard to tell when you're early. I looked at Bitcoin and it went to $1 and I said, oh, I missed it. I'm so stupid. Why didn't I get it below $1? I'm so dumb. And then I saw it go to $30 and I was like, oh, I really missed it now. Gosh, $1 would have been great. $30. And then it went to $300. And I was like, okay, enough of this. Like, I'm crazy early. $300 is still fine. I'm going to get my handful. I have $1,000 in my savings account. I'm going to put that all in, whatever it is, and that'll happen to you. But nobody does it right. Hardly anybody sees it the first time and says, hey, I'll buy a little bit. But that's what I think we need to do to our friends is we need to say, hey, get $10 in. Hey, I know you don't like Bitcoin, but you don't have to invest in it. Instead of the next beer, I'll buy you the beer. You take some Bitcoin on your phone. Now you've got some Bitcoin. Because I think just having it on your phone, having it on your computer, sending it around, seeing how it works, and that it does work without a central party, without a central bank, without a middleman, that's the magic right there. The price is separate. Everybody's all into the price, but really it's that magic of sending value around. And then, try to buy something online, try to buy access to something or something inexpensive. You can try it out. It's really cool.
Exactly. You're talking about those people pulling the handles or pushing the buttons in the slot machine. And I work at a place,
so many of them.
So I watch a lot of people, scratch lotto and waste a lot of money. And it's like, just forego one of those tickets, get a little Bitcoin. Why not? I mean, it's a gamble just the same for you. So what do you have to lose?
Absolutely. And they're not seeing it, the amount of risk. Like everyone knows about the lottery machines. Everyone knows about these slot machines. It's not like you found a secret. You found the one slot machine that no one plays, or you found the popular one because it's on the end. There's no secret there. There's no knowledge, and there's just tons of risk with not a good upside. I think there's a lot of great upside here for Bitcoin, and we just have to wait for it. You have to be patient. You have to get in a little bit. I think dollar cost averaging is the best. So
Yeah. And you talked about that aha moment where the realization that Bitcoin is not a novelty payment system. That took a long time, I think, for me to explain to, people that asked about Bitcoin, why it's not a novelty payment system, what makes it different, what makes it so different, so radically different. And I feel like a lot of these, altcoins, whether or not they have something behind them technologically, they're just novelty payment systems, making it harder to, go places and buy things with this tokenization going on. So we'll see, decentralized exchanges, atomic swaps, that sort of thing might help out. But I'm just not interested in a novelty payment system.
no, and that's why it's so funny when they say, Bitcoin Cash is faster or this is faster. It's like, yeah, Dogecoin's faster. No one uses Dogecoin. Like, no one's going to hold their value in Dogecoin. There's lots of these altcoins available. I remember during the debate, so I think we're echoing a little. Roger Ver was saying, I can move $1 million on Dash. And it was like, yeah, no one's using Dash. You could move $1 million on something that no one uses all day. But once someone actually uses it, like what was happening to Bitcoin, that changes everything. So I think that does make things different.
Exactly.
I definitely think. I'm sorry. I definitely think with the altcoins, people are they're looking beyond what's right in front of them, and I did this mistake, and I had to explain this to my wife because in the beginning I was like, okay, well, Bitcoin sounds cool, but I looked at Bitcoin as a means for trading to make more of the cryptocurrency, and I think people are really attracted to the altcoins because there's so much marketing behind it. And if you're new to the space, you're not really looking for, what you're looking at the marketing, and you would go down the marketing path and you're like, oh, the websites are great. They've got these like future things they're going to be doing, and now I kind of want to invest in them because they seem new. It could take off, and I'll just use Bitcoin for this and that. But people don't realize, exactly like you said, it's just a means for an exchange, but they don't really know what they're exchanging or if the person's going to exit, early or what it's going to happen because it's controlled.
Definitely. I think no one knows what's going to happen next in Bitcoin. We're all just waiting. But thanks so much for your call. Anything else to add this morning?
Hey, that was it. Just wanted to say hey and appreciate everything you do. Love catching the streams, man.
Well, thanks so much, and give us a call anytime.
Hey, thanks.
All right, bye-bye. And you can call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. We're getting some interesting political talk in the chat. Excuse me, got a lot of coughing this morning. I'm not going to ignore your political talk, but I will probably disagree and try to counter it. First, let me explain your side. So he says, did you watch the video from CNBC with a Harvard professor saying that the tariffs on China are good and will get them to come to the table to curb intellectual property theft? Like he says, come on, you should be on board with tariffs now since you take CNBC and university professors' opinions for gospel. And then he's mad. He said, will I watch it? I'm not sure I'll watch it, but I am going to disagree with the Harvard professor. I do believe that China has a problem with intellectual property and that this is one specific area that we could work on with tariffs. What's unfortunate is that the way that Trump has brought in his tariffs with the 30% across the board raise has already caused a response in China. China has responded with a 30% across the board raise. So we're having a trade war. So no, I don't believe that anything good will come from this trade war. Once they're already responding with a 30% raise, we've lost the ability to discuss things. I don't know what the Harvard professor said, but if he said something like, we need to target places where China is copying things. So if China is copying Titleist golf clubs, And during the daytime, they're pumping them out in the factory and they're normal. During the nighttime, they're using the same machines, but they're not using the same equipment and materials. They're using different metals. They're making inferior copies of Titleist golf clubs, and they're ruining the market for Titleist, right? This is a specific issue. We could put specific tariffs on those factories. We could put specific tariffs on those industries, and we could try to negotiate with China to improve their use of intellectual property. This would be a specific area, right? This wouldn't be a blanket tariff of 30% on entire industries. So before the call, I do still disagree. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey there, this is Ben 10 from Omaha.
Hi, Ben. What's on your mind about Bitcoin today?
Wow, I just been watching your show for years now. I really like the style of your show. I miss the old days of your alter ego, the Mad Bitcoin. That was pretty awesome.
Oh, I do need to do some more, but it's funny. Those shows take me pretty much all day to do, and these shows take the actual time that it takes to do the show, and seem to get a better response. So it's easier and more popular, I suppose, to do these kind of shows.
Yeah, I have to say though, I think it might have been worth it. That it really was energizing your character.
Well, I'll try to do another one soon. Just takes all day.
No, I believe you. I know little things add up, and so it can look easier than it is. But hey, this is a deep question, and I know this is just such a massive thing, the BCH BTC, and it's really I really am torn. I have to tell you that I've been following everything for years, and I see where you're coming from, and I kind of see where Roger's coming from, and I guess I don't think there's an easy way to resolve this logically or rationally. I mean, it because I have to say, I made a resolution a couple years ago that I would try to buy everything with Bitcoin when the thing was just working so well. And it went through a crisis, as everybody knows, where you couldn't really do that. And then now we see a number of the opportunities to use it. And I kind of get I love this idea Lightning Network. I do. So if that happens, that's when it happens, that's going to be great. But what if you could boil it down to like a couple of sentences? How would you persuade me that to chill out, everything's fine?
Sure. Well, I think it all starts with the two different ideas. So one idea, the BCH idea, is to double the block size. In government, this is akin to kicking the can down the road. Right? We print some more money. We say, okay, we can't balance the budget today, politics, etc. We can't do it. We still have to keep the government running. So we're just going to double the blocks and kick the can down the road. And to a lot of people, this is totally reasonable. This is the most reasonable thing we could do. But the problem is that doubling the block size makes the airplane heavier. And Bitcoin is an airplane that's flying around the world 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It never lands, right? We're constantly repairing this airplane in the air. We're refueling it in the air. It never lands. So they want to come in and put a whole bunch of weights on the plane. And they say it'll be fine. But the problem is, we know from government, kick the can down the road. That's what they do the next time too, right? They just keep doubling the budget. They just keep doubling the block size. So technologically, it's not a solution, right? It's a solution of government. It's a solution of compromise of people. And when you're talking about that airplane, every additional pound of weight that you put on that airplane makes it harder to fly. And this isn't a normal kind of airplane. We can't take it down for a few days, build a completely new design, relaunch the airplane, right? If Bitcoin goes down for a few days, the whole experiment fails. Everyone can say, hey, remember when Bitcoin was down for a few days? And yeah, you can send your money anytime you want, except for those 2 or 3 days there in September, So we can't do it. We can't do that. Then on the other side, you have these scientists and these technologists who worked for years on segregated witness, right? They even figured out a way to do segregated witness as a soft fork. That is, that it's still compatible with the old chain. So if you want to hold your Bitcoin in an old wallet, you've got it on a paper wallet, you don't know anything, you don't want to change this, you're all set because segregated witness is a soft fork. It's backwards compatible. The other thing about the guys who want to make the blocks bigger, their solution's a hard fork. It's incompatible with the past. You have to upgrade your Bitcoin to use the Bitcoin Cash system because it's incompatible. So that's the basic scientific discussion. Should we kick the can down the road, just double the block size, make the airplane heavier? Or should we try a new technological solution, segregated witness, which separates the witness from the transaction, makes the blocks a little bit bigger? Right now, there's a little bit. And at the same time, it allows us to create things like the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network is a layer on top of Bitcoin where you can trade your Bitcoin to put your Bitcoin into a Lightning channel. Then you could send hundreds or thousands of transactions for free. Technologically, it's much better, right? It's going to take longer. We're going to have to fix things. It's going to take a while. It's not like just kicking the can down the road. That's an instant solution. So it's about your time preference. If you can afford some time, you'll be fine. If your business, like Coinbase or other people, needs to have low fees right now, then you have to kick the can down the road. So you understand the time preference on both sides. Then the final thing that you need to consider is that Bitmain, the biggest mining company in the world, seems to be mining with ASIC boost, right? They're mining with a 30% advantage. The way that it works is they're able to guess part of the formula before the other miners. And segregated witness, the way that it works, it moves the witness outside of the block. This affects the way that that formula works, and it makes it so they can't guess it anymore. So they're going to lose their 30% advantage. So they have like a real monetary reason to fight this. It's
Yeah,
not just a
that's
matter
interesting.
of
I didn't
time
know about
preference or kicking. They don't mention that because, yeah, ASIC Boost runs fine on Bitcoin Cash. It's still running fine there. It's not running on SegWit Bitcoin, on the other Bitcoin. So, you just have to ask yourself, do you work for Bitmain? Like, how important is this 30% advantage of you? So,
No, right. That makes sense. But here's really where I'm torn. Is I wonder why couldn't we do both at the same time? Meaning,
well,
why couldn't we increase the block and do Lightning Network? And rather than what happened, how did it come to this?
well, I think that this comes to we had a debate and a discussion for about 2 or 3 years there. And all of the scientists tried to be reasonable with them. And they tried to say, hey, we can do this. We can do this. We can still have both. And I think it just came down to this ASIC boost. They cannot give up this 30% advantage. I don't know what their position's like, but I imagine that they borrowed money from someone. And I imagine that they borrowed money from some bad people and that they told these bad people they would have a 30% advantage. So it's a no brainer to invest money with them. Maybe millions, maybe billions, lots of money, and that they have to get the money back to them and they have to have this 30% advantage. So no matter how these negotiations went, no matter how these discussions went, at the end of the day, they could not have this technological upgrade because it interferes with their ability to mine at a 30% advantage. So all of the other things are window dressing. They were all false arguments. They were all buying for time. When you're negotiating against someone like this, every day that they get to keep mining with their advantage, every day that they can push it off, is a win for them. They're playing a different game than you might be playing. You might not be seeing the whole thing. So when the user activated soft fork drew a
Interesting
line in the sand.
fully include in my experience with this angle of segregated witness and the ASIC boost. What
Mhm.
what it sounds like then, if that's was a major factor, is that rather than just increasing the block size and developing Lightning Network and adopting segregated witness, they wanted to be sort of against segregated witness, even though that doesn't seem to come up in the extending the block part of the conversation. So that's interesting. Okay, well, I appreciate what you're saying. I wish, well, everybody wishes something, but I remember when, I used to use, and maybe you're able to again. I was just on the Gift app. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
Sure, sure.
the fees and things, at one time it was an incredible experience. It was so easy to use. You could essentially buy everything with that app and trading it up for, different cards to redeem at many merchants. And then it didn't matter if they accepted Bitcoin directly. You could use the cards. And so there was then all of a sudden that just fell off a cliff, but perhaps it's available now on, it doesn't matter which version you're using because they accept both. It seems now.
Well, and I still think that would work fine with Bitcoin. You just might have to change your spending habits. Instead of buying one gift card at a time, sending only $20, you could spend $100 or $200. You could say, okay, I'm going to put my monthly money onto gift, and then I'll have my money there. And then you can buy gift cards slowly just by storing it in their system. I think you only have to change your habits a little bit. It's not that bad.
True. All right. I'll look forward to your bringing the mad Bitcoin out of the closet then and showing up on Good Morning Bitcoin sometime here soon.
I'll definitely give that a try soon. Thanks so much for the call, and it can be very hard to understand these things. So thank you for trying to help us understand.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye. And looks like Ricardo has to take off. Ricardo, anything you want to say in closing here?
Yeah, he made some excellent points about the Mad Bitcoin character. I think that's classic. That's something that's original. It can't be, dubbed, so it's pretty cool. I'm a huge fan of Mad magazine. But in closing, I want to say, you guys, peace, keep each other safe, inform yourself, stay vigilant. We live in a new age. We live in a new world. And if you want to follow me, go to Rico Coin Report or follow me on Twitter at Rico Report. And au revoir à Paris. See you later, Thomas.
All right. See you later. Bye, Rico. And just to agree with the last caller, it can be very hard to understand this thing. And I did want to keep all these parties together. I didn't want people to break off into Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And we had a series of scientific debates and discussions on the Mad Bitcoins channel. You can check those out where we tried to keep this together. And I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to this ASIC boost. It just comes down to the fact that they could mine Bitcoin more efficiently for them, and that they had made investors and investments based upon this ASIC boost. And like we were getting to the last caller, it wasn't so much that they were against SegWit, it's that all changes to Bitcoin needed to be passed through them. And what they really wanted to do was to switch the GitHub, the place where the code of Bitcoin is stored and debated and discussed. They wanted to switch that from GitHub/Bitcoin to GitHub/Bitcoin1. And the difference would be on the Bitcoin one, they would control it. So if Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, needs more transactions, he picks up the phone and he says, programmer, give me more transactions on Bitcoin. And no one cares, right? They make the decision right there. Brian makes the decision. The same way that Bitmain is all in the same way, we need ASIC boost protected. Whatever upgrades you do cannot break ASIC boost. And scientifically, that's not how this project is going to go. It's not going to be a top-down corporate project. So we have to look at it, and we have to see what's going on. Sorry, the chat's distracting me, but no, it's all about control. It's all about who puts the code onto Bitcoin, and if the code breaks their ASIC boost. I think that was very different than the argument we thought we were having. We thought we were talking about kicking the can down the road versus doing SegWit later, and they were more about we should do SegWit never. So it's pretty different. We were talking about tariffs. I still believe, I haven't watched the thing with the Harvard expert, but I believe in small cases, tariffs can be successful. Like if you were just trying to protect the Titleist company and you were just trying to protect golf clubs or intellectual property, you could work on those. I think in large cases, broad 30% tariffs on entire industries is going to be disastrous to everyone who works in those industries. When we put tariffs on steel, we don't just hurt the steel makers, we hurt all the people that build things out of steel. I think it's going to be a disaster. I think that basically he's made a miscalculation. In his smaller deals, in his real estate deals, he could always walk away or not pay for the item. He's done this several times in his past where someone builds something for him and he refuses to pay them. I think the problem with diplomacy and with a country like China is that they're going to be here in 5 years. They're going to be here in 10 years. They're never going to go away from a bankruptcy court. You're never going to have to not pay them off. If you don't pay them, if you don't make deals with them, they're going to stay. They're going to come back. And the failure of the North Korea deal as well is a lasting failure that will affect American foreign policy. We can't just declare bankruptcy, shrug our shoulders, and walk away. So I am interested in seeing this Harvard thing. I thank you for giving me more information and for continuing this discussion with fact-based debate. Glad to hear it. I think we're still in a disagreement on the tariffs and on the trade war. But again, I like that we're able to have this discussion. We're able to have this debate. Reading back, yeah, the big blocks, all that. Yeah, I just think it was just a facade. And that's why it's so sad to see someone like Vinny still defending it and protecting it. Just ask Vinny about ASIC boost. Ask him about the 30% advantage. So let's see. Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't think Gift has changed. Mad Bitcoins interview Satoshi. Okay, I should do that. There's been so many fake Satoshis. It wouldn't be that hard. I'll get him on the phone. I'll call him up. People are going back and forth between this and another channel. It's pretty cool. Let's see, what does this guy says? Thomas is a neutral party mediator trying to get all parties to work along, to get together, to work along, to get along. I nominate Thomas for UN chairman. Woo! I'm getting up there. I was hoping for Congress, but that's a good start. Then I could go make speeches like this on the floor. That's the best thing about being a senator or a congressperson. No one ever uses this. No one does this anymore. The Republicans, respect, they did it a little bit in the 90s. They just go to the floor and make speeches, right? They would go late at night. They figured out that C-SPAN would still broadcast them even if the floor was closed. And they would just go down there and make speeches. And that's what I would do if I was a congressman or a senator or whatever. I would just go down there and make speeches. And I would be like, Bitcoin this and Bitcoin that. And I don't understand the blockchain. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's not going to keep all your data straight. It matters who's telling the truth. If you tell the truth about the diamond, you put it on the blockchain, the truth will always be stored there. If you lie about the diamond, you put it on the blockchain, the lie will always be stored there. I don't see what you've changed. You've frozen the lie in carbonite. Great job. It's an invincible lie now. It will always be untrue. I don't get it, but yeah, cool. He agrees with me. I'm glad we're engaging on the topic of tariffs and debating. Yeah, being president is different than making business deals. I'm in agreement with that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, again, I don't know. I like this comment from Voltaire. He says, yeah, Trump's a stupid billionaire real estate mogul president who's married to a supermodel. He doesn't know what he's doing, right? And I do believe that Trump had it going for a while there. I'm reminded of what Howard Stern said about Mr. Trump. And Howard Stern knows Trump personally. They've hung out. He's been to Mar-a-Lago, all those kind of things. And he said to him before the election, and again, much respect for Stern for saying this, for telling Trump the truth, and for telling him it publicly and everything. He said, you got the best life in the world, man. You go to Mar-a-Lago, you go golfing, you got all these grandkids, you just chill out, you go on TV, say whatever you want, you're a big TV star. Why do you want to be president? Why do you want this hassle? And Stern couldn't figure it out. Stern couldn't figure out why Trump would destroy what seemed to be a perfect life to be president, because no matter what's going to happen on a being president, that some people are going to like you and some people are going to dislike you. Whereas Donald Trump, the reality character, the reality show star. Maybe I didn't watch The Apprentice or whatever, but I never, cared. I never had a negative feeling about him other than, he's some rich guy. He eats his pizza with a fork. Jon Stewart did a great bit on Trump back in the day about him eating his New York style pizza with a fork. Jon Stewart even showed him how you eat it. He's like, yeah, you fold it in half and boom, right in the face, right in the face. um, Oh, I hope it's because Trump loves America. That's a nice reason for him to want to be president, for him to want to do some good things, hopefully. I'm afraid it's more about the ego, though. I think that Trump loves the idea of Trump being president, and that he loves the idea of all these people talking about him all the time, and that he's been really successful in that way. We certainly don't go a day in history now where people are not talking about Trump on the news and not talking about what he's doing. And attention-wise, he must get more attention than he's ever had. I'm afraid at least half of it, maybe even 70% of it, is negative. So that's going to affect him in certain ways. But it's very interesting. It's very interesting stuff. So. Uh, they say Trump, oh yeah, Trump did tell the truth about 9/11. It says in the chat, he said immediately that the collapse made no sense to him and that towers couldn't collapse like that. And I agree with that. I think that's the basic truth about 9/11 is that buildings don't fall down like that. Everything else, put everything else to the side and just say, this is how physics work. Buildings don't fall down with that. We have a real problem, right? Either we have a real problem with buildings, they're not safe, or we have a real problem with those 3 buildings, not just 2. But we don't want to go down that road if we don't have to. So I don't know that Trump's going to be in favor of Bitcoin and the tokenized economy. It's very much a new technology. He's an older gentleman. I think he'd be afraid of it like he'd be afraid of the internet. He said some bad things about the internet not too long ago. How he would prefer to shut it down and all those kinds of things. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Trump is a virus, illusion of control. He wanted to set up his family into unimaginable wealth for perpetuity. Attention of the narcissistic ego was just a side effect. I kind of feel like well, I'm still in the camp where he ran to lose. Every other time he ran, Howard and everyone else said, "Oh, he's doing it to pump up his book and his TV shows." And I think maybe that was it. And then they got really, really close, and the election was closer than anybody thought, and they accidentally won. And they're like, "Oh, we accidentally won, so I guess we got to run this country now." So yeah, I don't know. Thanks. We disagree politically, but I'm glad that we can agree on 9/11. That just physically, either tall buildings are unsafe. And I worked in a tall building, so I had to check that out personally. I had to know how much time we had to get out of there, because if they collapse that fast, all of those drills are a waste of time. We can never bother with a fire drill because, yeah, those things go so fast. And I know about fireproof steel. And I know I've seen the videos. It doesn't melt fast. So yeah, we have a specific physics related problem with those buildings. It's not a conspiracy. It's not political. It's not government based. It's not anything. It's a simple question of science. There's other little things no one wants to talk about, but that the spot was too hot. There was too much molten metal in the base of the building. You could see the NASA picture from above. Where does all that molten metal come from? Why were the workers' boots melting when they walked upon the cold pile? These are big physics problems. These are scientific problems. I don't care what you believe. I believe in physics. So until somebody tells me where that energy came from, I don't have an answer for you. I have my own theories, but yeah, there's no answer. So, but we're getting way off the roads here. Building 7, 9/11, absolutely. People agree. Yeah, Trump never intended to win. Things are kind of half-assed, and that's unfortunate because it would be better if we were full-assing things. But yeah, maybe it was molten steel running down the rails from thermite. Yeah, there's stuff like that. But you guys can go read more about that. You don't have to come to me for that. There's lots of other resources out there. And I think we're going to go towards the end of the show. Thanks so much for everybody who called in today, gave us a thumbs up and a share. I really do think that we can change Bitcoin together. We can make it not all about the price. We can make it about the technology. So thanks so much, everybody, for chatting in the chat and for hanging out and for giving us a phone call. And we'll be back tomorrow. Until next time, bye-bye.